All right, hey, let's do this. I'm excited to start because it's episode 305 of No Laugh Track Podcast. This is Justin Severson, the host. I am here with someone who hasn't been here in over 4 years, I think. I didn't look it up, but it's got to be some kind of record in amount of time passed in between appearances on this podcast. Chris Gethard is here.
I like to keep them waiting. What can I say?
Yes. And it would say your triumphant return, episode 304. Can you remember?
Wait, you've done this 304 times?
Oh, there's your podcast playing. Hey, can we hear that?
Oh, wow.
Say again? Yes, I've done 300 and some of these. 305.
That's a lot of times to do a thing.
Yeah, one a week.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well done.
And you were here last time at episode 88.
Mm-hmm.
I listened back to it.
How was it?
Good.
Okay.
We need to get some updates.
All right.
One of the things we talked about there is you were doing a TV show that was going to get picked up by Comedy. I'm totally kidding.
Oh, no, that's true, probably, right?
But that's what was happening then.
Yeah, we had a pilot for Comedy Central.
You had just done the pilot. Yeah.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
So they passed on that.
Times have changed, Chris.
2 seasons on the Fusion Network.
Uh-huh.
Season, I guess technically 1 season, but what was it, like 26 episodes on True TV?
Yeah.
And now canceled.
I
a whole world has changed.
Sort of come
been here.
Not full circle, but a lot's changed.
I mean, probably more back to square one is what you would say.
Not true.
What you would say, yeah.
Yeah, not really, though.
No, I'm doing okay.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Doing all right.
I'd absolutely say so. No, I wanted to look up the description of that episode. It was you, the pilot had been sold to Comedy Central. You were about to film your half-hour special.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And here we are now.
Look at that.
I mean, that half-hour special is so far in the past now, right?
It is.
Yeah.
What a strange thing to think about. Now I'm back. All right.
Yeah.
Take it.
Uh-huh.
Take it. Yeah,
I think you should.
Yeah, that's good to take stock. Things have come along pretty far. That's nice.
Uh-huh.
That's nice, yeah.
And also in that amount of time, I've become a big fan of yours.
Thanks.
Yeah. In fact, we used to record this podcast a lot on Wednesdays. Mm-hmm. And I kind of had a routine where I would come here, do the podcast, get home, and that in that meantime, my YouTube subscription to the Chris Gethard Show would send me an update that there was a new posting. Then I'd go home, sit in my deck outside, and watch the latest episode of the Chris Gethard Show.
That sounds like a pretty pleasant way to spend time on a deck.
It was fantastic.
I like that story.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
All right. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Now I just have to rewatch, since there won't be any new ones, I'm just going to have to rewatch the old ones, but that's okay.
It's time to dive into the back catalog because we are done.
It's kind of weird having you here. That's pretty fresh.
It is.
Today's
so
what? It's only
that...
the middle of October or August, and that was just a few weeks ago you found out?
I mean, I sort of knew for a while, had a gut instinct that it was done. I actually told my writers about 2 or 3 weeks into our most recent batch of episodes, I don't think we should do this anymore, so if other jobs come along, you should take them. I was trying to do right by the writers. So I've sort of known for a while, but yes, it became formal just within the past few weeks.
What, you have plenty of things that you can do. What do you know? Has anybody ever has anyone grabbed a new job already that worked for you, with you?
Yeah, a few of our writers have already moved on. One of them's writing for a Comedy Central show. Trying to think who else is getting picked up for stuff. I don't know. That's the one that jumps out. Our writers are always in demand because I think they have a good reputation for doing like very weird stuff cheaply. So some of our people are getting scooped up. It's nice, and I hope everybody does because they're hardworking people.
I watched an episode of the show with my wife the other day. It was actually I think it was the first episode of this most recent season
with Abby Jacobson and the Cars.
No, it was with the maybe I have it wrong then, but it was with the guys from Impractical.
Oh yeah. So the first ever episode on True.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And then it had the guy at the end where you went.
Oh
with the prizes.
I went to Missouri and met that kid Nick.
Yeah,
he was really nice.
Can you expand on that? How that went down?
Yeah, so basically we came out of the gate. The network, Impractical Jokers is such a big thing, and has such a huge fan base the network was really making a priority of, let's see if we can get you their fan base. So we had them on the show at our first episode on True, and I've actually been pals with Sal Vulcano for years. He used to come hang out at the Public Access show before Impractical Jokers existed, so we've been buddies for years, and he helped coordinate it, and we did a thing where people could where the Impractical Jokers would be destroying piñatas live on the air, and people at home could call in and win whatever was in them, and we wound up giving a whole bunch of stuff to this dude at the end, and he lived in Missouri, so I just left that night. He randomly called in. We had to figure out where we're going, and I just went to Missouri on no notice and dropped all this guy's prizes off with him personally. And
the very next day.
Yeah. There were no flights available from New York, which is crazy because we have 3 major international airports.
Right.
You take an Uber to Washington, D.C. to get a flight to St. Louis to meet this guy, Nick. And then we came right back. We met, and we were probably only hanging out with him for like maybe 30 minutes at the end of it.
Really?
Yeah, but he was nice. I like meeting people face to face. I thought that was a good way to come out of the gate for the True TV audience, to show them the experience I was trying to give people.
Yeah.
Trying to make TV feel maybe a little smaller and more personal. But it didn't work out, unfortunately, so it's okay. That Jokers fans never quite took to us. But that's all right. I can't bend to anybody.
As being a fan of yours, it is interesting the positive and negatives of being like on the same network as those guys. For you,
well, I had high hopes that there's some crossover. Like, there's Staten Island guys. I'm a Jersey guy. There's a lot of shared culture there. I think our show has like a real like up by the bootstraps feel. That homemade quality, that feeling that we just kind of like decided we wanted to do it ourselves, and we went and did it. Those were things that I thought culturally we all had in common with the Jokers, and I think the 4 guys on the show actually do really identify with that, and we all really hit it off. But I just think that my show maybe had a little bit of like a artsy edge or a hipster edge that that some of those Jokers fans were not quite looking for,
or
and they let me know about it online.
Yeah, but there's also the flip side of that, in that, like, me being a fan of your show, I'm not necessarily a fan of that, but they do.
I like their show. I mean, I started watching it right when it came on because Sal is such a friend, and I do like it. I think it's funny. I got nothing against it or them.
Right.
And I should also say that there was a big chunk of their fans who, when they gave us the thumbs up, they were just the sweetest people who got on board.
That's good.
But some of their fans who... It's tough. It was tough that some of it was a very vocal negativity, which I don't think played great. That's one thing I don't understand. Someone actually just messaged me like 2 days ago and was like, "You suck. Your show sucks. I don't get why the Jokers even went on it." And I wrote back and I was like, "Well, we got canceled, so... You don't have to worry about it anymore. Like, 70 people lost their jobs. You win." I don't necessarily understand the instinct people have to be like outwardly vocal in negative ways online. It feels like if you don't like something, just put it on mute. The Jokers will be back on with like
right
any second now. So
literally,
yeah, that was a little tough. And I think the optics of that were not great because I think it was just very clear that we weren't totally catching them.
Have you ever set up a what am I looking for? A buffer, a barrier between you and critics online? Have you ever tried to do that, or do you keep?
I've had to learn more and more. I'm really bad about it. For most of my career, things have been so small and underground, and I've always been very happy that way. But what happens then is like a lot of the critics, if they were professional, if they were finding us at all, it was generally because it was a positive thing, because it was pretty hard to find what I was doing for most of my career. So it would be something that they heard about or they were seeking out. So that was all right. I mean, certainly rising to a platform like True, there was a fear of like, oh, is there going to be backlash and we're going to get some negative press? But the press has always been so kind, and I think a lot of people who review arts saw our show and were like, oh, they are trying something different and weird and risky, and appreciate it. As far as the the social media side, that stuff's so hard to navigate. I've always had fun dealing with it. Like I used to answer a lot of like the trolls, and I've done a couple of things where I've even gone and met trolls and talked to them face to face, and I always thought that was a pretty interesting thing to do. I will say that even I have hit a point where I'm like, I just can't deal with it anymore. I just don't. What can I say if someone who likes a different show on my network wants to send me a message telling me I'm ugly? Like, what do you do? It's just like the bar for discourse is set so low that
really.
You can't engage, and it's a shame because I actually used to really love using the like open avenue of communication that social media provided to build stuff creatively and interact directly with people.
Yeah, what happened?
It would just, I think I've just done enough stuff now, and not patting myself on the back, but True is a national network. Like, I did a special on HBO, and
Hell yeah.
it just kind of opens the floodgates, and it's no longer, even the negative stuff used to be people who were at least taking a chance on watching a thing of mine. Now I think I'm on some platforms big enough that it just kind of winds up in front of them randomly.
Oh, yeah.
And they're not people who are interested in a back and forth. They just want to put their negative opinions out there and then walk away. So that's made me have to kind of like turn off my involvement with all of it. Because it's also, I think, I get in my head a lot. I'm a pretty sensitive guy, very emotional guy. I've never hid that.
Right.
And it's tough not to only dwell on the negatives, Even ending the show, it's like we got like thousands of tweets from people that were like reminiscing about their favorite parts or thanking us for making it in the first place. And it's hard for me not to focus on like the half dozen people who said nasty things, So that's not a healthy relationship with the internet. And I think for all of us, it's becoming harder and harder to maintain something that feels healthy in relation to that. So
sure.
Back off.
Can I ask? Because how did it go meeting up with trolls?
It was really fun. There were two big things I did. One was years ago. This guy, I was on a sitcom in 2010, and there were 10 episodes, and it kind of bombed, and that's okay. But I found a post a guy put online. It was actually on IMDb, on my message board. The message board's associated with my IMDb account, where he went hard and he said things like, "My agent should hang herself."
Holy cow!
And it was just so over the top that I became a little obsessed with it. I thought it was just so fascinating to go that hard, and I in what is admittedly kind of creepy fashion, just internet detectived this person's anonymous name. Managed to figure out he was this guy who lived in St. Louis, and I sent him a message and I said, found your comment. I thought it was really amazing. I think a lot about it. I was like, I'm not mad, I'm not thrilled, but I'd love to talk to you about it. And if you ever want to make a video, let me know. I'll come to St. Louis. Like, I'll come to you. And he initially brushed it off, and he sent some comments back to me, some Facebook messages back to me that were like sort of not apologetic, but kind of trying to justify why you put it up there. And
really? I would have thought I'm imagining the initial reaction is, "Oh, lighten up, man! It's just just saying stuff. It's no big deal."
It was more along the lines of him going like, "Look, I really reacted poorly to your show. I was also like, I'm an insomniac. Sometimes I'm up in the middle of the night and I just lean into internet stuff and stuff like that." But then he said no, and then one day I got a message where he goes, "Hey, I'm in New York. I want to make that video." And I said, "Great, when?" He goes, "Well, I leave tonight." So I said, "All right, I guess we have to do it right now." So I had him come meet me, and I just had a little flip cam, and we filmed it. It's up on YouTube, and he stuck to his guns. He was like, "I do stand by what I said. I don't think you're very good at what you do." And it was pretty fascinating. And I have to say, I give him a lot of credit.
I do too.
Yeah. I figured he was going to kind of go, "Oh, people go a little crazy on the internet." Mm-hmm. But he was like, "No, I do honestly think he was like, I think you're going to, all vitriol aside, all internet trolling aside, I think if you stay in this profession, you're going to have a really hard time of it." And I was like, "Okay, I respect that."
Did you ask him what he did like? That isn't you?
No, I don't know if I asked him that. I asked him what he did, and he was a baker. And I said to him, "Are you better at baking than I am at comedy?" And he said, "Yes, undoubtedly. I am better at what I do than you are what you do." It's pretty fascinating. And then with the Gethard show, we actually had an episode where this kid named Randy, he was a teenager from Virginia, started coming at me hard. And I started going back and forth with him, and it wound up being really fun. He was someone who just yelled at me. I was just venting, just yelling back. He was just like trying to shit on me, so I was shitting on him. And then it became like sort of a begrudging respect where I realized I was kind of like giggling, and then I started to pick up that he was having fun with it too.
Sure.
I said, Randy, why don't you come be a guest on my TV show, man? And we had him on. He was on an episode with Nick Kroll and a goat. Which is a very, very cliche thing to say about the Chris Gethard show. We had a goat and Nick Kroll and a 17-year-old internet troll. that does sound like my show. But he was a sweet kid. He was a pretty sweet kid at the end of the day. That's what was nice up until the past year or so, was I often found that if I engaged with people, it would kind of break through the shitty behavior. And if I reached out as a human or responded and they realized it was actually getting to me, very often they'd go, oh my God, I didn't think you'd actually see that. This is not who I really am. You got to trust me. I was just venting. And sort of see people reconsider how they behave online. And that was pretty cool to be a part of, because it was a good reminder for me, too, about how to kind of conduct myself. But this recent wave of it is just people... It's funny. I think my HBO special, which was about my mental health issues, has brought like a tidal wave of people contacting me about their own mental health issues. Mm-hmm. And then the True TV fans, some of them have been coming at me with insults. And between those two things, I think I need a little bit of an internet vacation.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, I could understand that.
Let things blow over so it can just be, looking at memes again like everybody else.
Memes can still be fun.
I love a good meme.
And harmless.
Who doesn't love a good meme?
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to change the subject for just a second here, since you brought up about taking a break from phones. And I talked to Brooks Whelan about this last week briefly. I went and saw Jack White in concert a week and a half ago here in Minneapolis, and he's doing a thing now on his tour where it's phones free. Where before you get into the venue, you have to slide your phone into this bag that seals shut. You get to hold on to it, but you can't get your phone out of there until you leave.
How do they make sure it stays locked? That's my first
It's
question.
some sort of I didn't try ripping on it.
Yeah.
It's some sort of magnetic, I don't know.
I've heard of people
Some sort of
doing
technology keeps it closed.
Yeah.
I suppose if you really wanted to rip your thing open and get your phone out, you could.
Yeah.
But then as soon as they saw you with your phone, you'd get tossed out.
Right.
So.
Well, it's nice that you can get it in case of emergency.
But they also, they leave it open. There's areas during the show where you can go, and it's you're away from the performance, but you can get to your phone if you need to use it.
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you just wait till the end. I thought it was great.
I think that's cool. I remember when I first heard about it a few times, it sounded quite pretentious to do that in the world of indie rock. But the more I think about it, the more...
Or comedy.
In comedy, well, even it is fun. Like, I tell you, as a performer, I don't ever want to be a diva. I don't want to be a baby. But when someone checks their texts because that buzz came in and they're addicted and they want the dopamine rush, I will say, when I'm standing on stage and it's totally dark and all of a sudden you see a pool of white light open up on somebody's face, it is immensely distracting. You know, like last night, even here, someone in the back went to sneak a picture of me and they accidentally left their flash on, and I'm flattered that they want to take a picture, but my instincts kick in where I'm like, oh wait, did I just get the light? I've had to have that conversation from the stage a few times of, hey, just so you know, in comedy, when someone waves a light at you from the back of the room, that means you have to wrap it up. And I don't know right now if the club is telling me it's time to go, or you just wanted a picture. Like
that rarely happens here, but I saw that last night, and I thought, what the fuck? What?
I know, yeah. It just is distracting. And you know what? The thing I feel bad about is I don't want to ever yell at anybody. I play with my phone too much too. The problem is that when the pool of light goes up on one person and I get distracted, if I fuck up that joke, that means that the other 200 people here have not as good a show as I could have given them.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I'll get back on my feet or turn it into something or improvise off of it. But it's just a shame. It's just a shame. Not that I want to yell at the person or shame the person, but it's like you don't realize that you kind of you're putting me in a position where I'm distracted, and probably the people in your section are distracted.
Yes. There was the group, I was here by myself. I showed up by myself last night. And this was a group sitting in front of me, clearly into the show, really enjoying it. Everybody's laughing. I think there was 3 of them in the group. And then, there's probably maybe 15 minutes left in your set. The girl in front of me takes out her phone and is looking. I'm like, where did this come? What?
It's just the
You were
nature of
here.
these
You were with us
days.
all night.
It's not, and I don't think it's a malicious thing. I don't even think it means she's getting bored. I think it is, she set her phone on vibrate. It's vibrated enough times. She's heard it or felt it, and she's just having that like 2018 anxiety of like, oh, I wonder what I'm missing out on. I wonder what I'm missing out on.
Yeah.
I don't think it's malicious, but I do think it's disruptive. And it's a bummer, but I'm not going to judge. I'm on my phone all the time. I'm trying to break the habit, but yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
It is tough.
It's tough for performance.
I was reading something this morning about, when somebody did a survey, and it asked people what's the last thing they look at before they go to bed. Mm-hmm. Whether is it their spouse or their phone or the television, and it's scary how many people it's the phone or the television, and not the person next to them.
Yeah. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I fall into that trap. I mean, my wife and I, we like to watch Netflix on our iPad as we fall asleep. So at least it's a shared activity.
Wait, one iPad in between you?
We'll take one iPad. It will generally sit on my stomach, and then she will put her head on my chest, and we will watch.
Wow. Okay.
Both of us. I don't have cable, which it's funny. Now that my show has been canceled, I can reveal I have never seen an episode of my show.
I wanted to ask you that so bad. I'm so glad you said that, Chris.
I don't have cable, so who am I to lament too hard the death of my cable show? It's a medium I don't pay for because it's not a factor in my lifestyle anymore.
I'm so glad you said that.
So if I don't have it, I would imagine that people who are fans of mine maybe aren't clamoring for cable. Anyway, we will pick one show at a time, and we just watch that show start to finish, and it's like a nice little shared husband-wife thing. It's nice. It's a good time.
What are you watching now?
Castle Rock. Stephen King one on Hulu. It's awesome.
Oh, okay.
You know how he set a bunch of his stuff in the town of Castle Rock? Or characters, everything?
Yes.
The show's set there, and it kind of sort of like retrofits a cinematic universe style thing where there's a lot of references to his work that come up, and it makes them live in the same world, and it is great.
Thank you for the recommendation.
Yeah, but it's J.J. Abrams, and I'm worried it's going to have that Lost thing where I'm like, oh, there's so many mysteries right now, but are they going to resolve it in a satisfying way?
Will these tie together at the end or leave me hanging?
We'll see. But I'm having a hell of a time being along for the ride.
Okay, good. Do you ever watch the stand-up on Netflix?
I do.
You do?
I do. I mean, there's so much of it now that I don't watch all of it. I'll watch stuff that I hear is good. I'll watch stuff from comedians I've historically liked. I'll watch stuff that friends do.
Okay. Not everybody does.
No.
Not all comics watch other people's stuff.
If I'm working hard on something, if I'm like working on a set, I actually do tend to avoid watching other comedians like The Plague because I don't want to unconsciously suck up ideas other people are playing with. And if I have ideas that exist, I don't want to find out other people are playing with those ideas and feel like I need to bail on. I do think there's in the code of ethics among comics, I think if somebody was to come up to me and say, oh, I'm kind of been doing a similar bit, I think I'd go, oh, I've never seen it, and I've been doing mine for X amount of years, and we can both be okay with that. I think if they came up and said, I've been doing that, and I go, I know, that's a different thing. So I tend to avoid it, especially the people who kind of are in the same sort of like storytelling, self-deprecating, maybe more alt end of the spectrum.
Sure.
I tend to avoid those as I'm like ramping up towards something that I think might be special.
I just thought of one more question I wanted to ask you. I have a billion other things I want to talk about. I have one more thing about the Chris Gethard show. Mm-hmm. When people most articles about it, especially the ones, well, I would say, it was covered quite a bit, as you know, when it was announced that it was going to be on True TV, when it was going to be on Fusion, right? Fusion, yeah, and then now since it's been canceled.
Yeah.
It has got like the Rolling Stone, all these huge, publications have written about it, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, we got very lucky with it.
I did read an article or an interview with you and you said something about people's attention span.
Yeah, I think there's a sad but true thing about it. It was funny when the network, the president and vice president of the network took me out to lunch, and that was when they asked me if I wanted to keep doing it, and I was like, I'm not like this, and I know it needs changes, so I just don't think I have it in me to make them. There was an article, I think it was maybe IndieWire, did a review of our finale that was so validating to read. This reviewer really, really got it, what we were going for. Like, it's one of those things with my show where it's like, you watch the show that we put out into the world, but there's also kind of the story of the show and how it came to be. There's like the long-running thing of getting to know the people on it. There's some levels to it that if you buy in, I think that's where it really gets addictive. It's less about me getting tossed into a dunk tank and more about this like evolving ecosystem we've built where all these people come and go, and you get to see us sort of grow up over time. And he really got all that stuff and wrote about it beautifully, and I was so thankful. And the president of the network was like, your show gets us press like that, and holy shit, like, no offense to the other shows, I don't think they're getting like critical praise like that. Some of them are.
I just remembered, by the way, what I was going to ask you, it ties right into this, is your feelings on it being its cult status.
Yeah, we never totally broke through, we never totally broke through. And I think I'm okay with that at the end of the day. I'd rather have it die on the vine with cult status than have it survive longer with bigger mainstream success, but being a thing that I don't like. I would much rather that. And I know that's easier to say now that it's dead, but it's like, I always maintain that. Like, I'd rather kill it the right way than do it the wrong way. So, very happy with that. And I think the cult status of that, there were times where it was like, how do we get beyond that? But it's also very empowering. It's also very empowering when someone gives you notes to say, you know what? I know for a fact that the existing fan base would not like this. They'd rebel against this. It's a source of strength, because at the end of the day, one of the fun things about it being a cult is that I was a member of the community that surrounded it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I could participate. I knew the people. I'd see their names. I'd meet them in person, come out on the road, meet somebody and be like, oh, you've called the show 4 times. It's so cool to meet you in person. So they were an immense source of strength as well, the cult, because they allowed me to kind of stand up for myself and know that there was this strong block of people that had my back. Because I think the network knew we want to make appeals to go more broad and get more people sucked into it. But the tricky thing is we can't do anything that's going to turn off the existing fans and chase them away. That would be counterproductive. So they were a real source of strength. As far as the attention span thing goes, though, that article that the president of the network said to me, he read that review and he was like, it's incredible. He's like, but even reviewers said the show is an hour long and that's it. It is a tough sell in the modern landscape. I said, I know, I am learning that more and more. Like, I grew up on Letterman where you wanted to watch the whole thing. I grew up on SNL when you watch the whole show at night. Now people watch all those things in clips. I don't think anybody's watching full episodes of a late night show start to finish anymore. I think they watch the clips the next day online. And
yeah, I don't like I used to.
No, I don't either, I must admit. And I think at the end of the day, my show was built and was at its best as a start to finish experience. And that is a little bit of a square peg, round hole type thing in modern TV. Convincing someone to sit down for an hour is a big ask. And I think the out of context clips of my show were still pretty funny a lot of the time, but I don't think you get the big picture. Like, you'd think of it as like sort of like a pretty goofy show that did a lot of physical stuff, almost like stunt driven stuff, but you wouldn't get the bigger picture of, oh, here's this guy who's kind of depressed and trying to hold the ship together, and he's got all these friends, and they sort of respect him, sort of don't. It gets out of control a lot of the time. Like, all those things that I think made it special don't show up in 2-minute clips.
Sure.
And I think that was a thing that I think the network was realizing we weren't good at, and that we probably weren't going to get good at. I just don't think that was going to happen. I don't think you can bottle what was really at the heart of it into a 90-second Facebook clip. I just don't think it would happen, but that's the way of the world these days. That's how things spread and people learn, so.
Yeah. It's, you never know how somebody's going to hear about something. I mean, I'm thankful that because of, I think it had a lot to do with my position of being a huge comedy nerd and hosting this podcast and having you on 4 years ago that I found out about that show. I admit it. I didn't know about your public access show 4.5 years ago. Nobody living in Minneapolis. Why would I?
Nobody did.
No, but then I met you, saw you do stand up, and then all of a sudden I get like, well, he's going to be on, TV, and then I was hooked.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
it's fun. To this day, the way people tell me that they found my work, it is as varied and weird as you can imagine.
I bet.
It is just. I have been able to build a nice little fan base that supports me, and I can tell you so honestly, it is like an individual by individual case of how they got on board.
I imagine so.
My podcast was the first thing that was kind of like a big wave of people all at once that came in through one project. Before that, it was individual by individual getting on board, telling their friends. Sometimes you'd see like there was like a little group of kids in Michigan that one of them found it, and then they would all watch together. 5 or 6 kids in Austin. There's a group in Baltimore, and but where you knew, where I would know, okay, we got 8 fans in Baltimore, because this one kid, Will, found it, and he told all his friends.
Thanks, Will.
And then they Skyped into the show all together, and a couple other Baltimore people realized there were more Baltimore people, and they posted about it online, and now they all hang out, and it's like, and that's where my 8 fans in Baltimore came from.
Yeah.
You know, like, wow, what a weird thing to actually see one by one. There was one, I remember once, there was this kid named Shelby from Kentucky who started calling the public access show. They had seen me on Conan, and this kid started calling. And then all these kids started calling. They were all from Asbury University, which I had never heard of. And then we did a thing with the show where we traveled cross country and went and kind of visited people in random fashion. And we wound up going to the campus of their school. And it was like an ultra born-again Christian school, which I don't judge at all, but it's very out of character for comedy fans, I would think. My fans, I'm a Northeastern liberal, like lapsed Catholic. I curse a lot, like... And it was just so funny to realize, this one kid, Shelby, a band he liked was playing Conan. He tuned in early, saw me, thought it was cool, started showing it to everybody on his dorm. It became a weird, cool thing on the campus of this school, and then everybody started hearing about it. And a crew of like 20 kids on campus at Asbury University, they were all born-again kids, and they loved it. And I loved that. It became these weird little pockets like that all over the country.
You know what I'm realizing is there's guys out there, well, people out there that are fans of yours. That what you're the fandom of you is sort of like their probably initial bond. I'm saying this because I have a friend like that in college. Mystery Science Theater had already been around for a while, but when I was in college is when it hit Comedy Central, and all of a sudden got a bigger audience. But being from the Twin Cities here, I knew about Mystery Science because my dad told me about it when it was on public access.
Yeah,
or not public access, channel 23 or whatever. It was UHF.
Yeah.
And
it's true. And
then I to this day, one of my closest friends is a guy that we used to get together Friday night. I'd be throwing a party at my house in college, but we would sneak downstairs to my bedroom and put on the episode of Mystery Science and watch it on and off throughout the night.
Yeah,
and we still get together.
MST3K.
We still get together and watch and go to their Riff Tracks movies that are live in theaters.
Awesome.
Yes,
I have that same thing. I think in the time of my show, I feel like it coincided with such a big boom in comedy and podcasting. And comedians who weren't mainstream becoming a little bit like Mark Maron becoming a household name.
Yeah,
for someone
sure.
who'd been around for years. And I think in that era, as things were blowing up, I look back now and realize I think the kids who found my show were the same kids who would have found college radio in the 80s. You know, like it was this thing where they were like, there's a sort of fundamental choice based on integrity that we like, that is find the stuff that is intentionally non-commercial and underground and driven by integrity more than quality.
Correct.
And it was very much the same way kids found DIY music and college radio, and that was the culture. It had, I think, a little bit more culturally in common with the way music used to spread than the way comedy traditionally spreads. I was lucky to experience it all.
Hell yes. I want to talk about the podcast you're doing now. I will admit that I haven't been a listener for a long time because there are so many podcasts out there. And I got my own jobs and my own to put together. But I am trying. I'm also, this is just I want to get this out there. Maybe I'm a subscriber to satellite radio.
Yeah, me too.
As I'm adding more and more podcasts to my list, I'm starting to think maybe there's not enough time for everything that I want to get in my ears.
Satellite radio.
I did too,
because I missed that feeling of something random and new being thrown at me.
Okay,
like having someone curate something, and I get to stumble into it and go, "What is this?" Like that feeling is not one I experience so much anymore because you find out about things, right? And then you find out about a band, you go to their Bandcamp, you're already kind of opting in because you've heard about it somewhere. I missed that feeling of turning on a radio and going, wait, what? What have I missed the boat on? I got to go download this. I got to go find out more about this. So
yeah, I like
it.
That's a very good point. Beautiful Anonymous is fantastic.
Thanks.
Last night after I came home from your show and I was telling my wife, I said, I know you don't listen to podcasts, and I'm not, including mine. And I was like, that's fine, But I'm just curious. I said, because of how popular they are, how much I love listening to podcasts, I said, what would get you? What would be the topic? I said, the reason I'm even bringing this up, because Chris Gethard's show, I think you would get into.
That's awesome.
I think it's not just for men. Certainly, it's for. It seems like it's for everybody, and it's like I know that she loves those. Like the shows on like Dateline or whatever, where they do the true story of this regular person that may have been, and that's what your show is. It's real people.
Thanks,
I think she would really like that.
I've had a lot of fun with it. It's been such an interesting thing for me because it grew in a direction pretty quickly where it's not comedy. It is not a comedy show. Sometimes it's funny.
Yeah.
But very often it's dark, and it's much more sort of like human interest stories or like
human interest. That's what I was trying to say.
Right. Yeah, like these slice of life glimpses into people's lives and opinions. And I'm so lucky to do it. But I turn around and I'm like, most of the people who buy tickets to my shows are fans of the podcast. They're not necessarily comedy fans. It's such a weird thing that it's not necessarily a funny show all the time. But I'm so lucky that it broke the way it did. It really changed my whole career.
I'm a new member of the Facebook group.
Oh, nice.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, sweet people.
Yeah.
30,000 strong. It's nuts.
Congrats,
really
man.
Nuts.
I mean, it's amazing.
Thanks. I am so lucky to be a part of it. For a while, I was almost bitter because it came in and just kind of blew up out of the gate. And I was like, I've worked so hard on my TV show for years and have never had this explosion of enthusiasm. And I was almost like mad.
I understand that.
Yeah, but I took a step back and I was like, this is like such a new thing and a new experience, and I have to embrace it. And I also took a breath and went, you know what, too, like, it's much more reflective of who I am at the age of 38. The Gethard show was an idea I initially had when I was about 27. That's when I started thinking of it. And I'm a much different person now. And I think it's a little more laid back. It's a little more grown up. It's a little bit less chip on the shoulder. And that is much more who I am now than who I was. So it makes sense to me. And having the podcast going well was a huge source of strength when I realized I think I'd like to end the TV show.
Okay. I was curious about that.
I already have another project up and running that is popular and that I think does fit my personality a little bit better in 2018.
Okay.
So that was a source of strength. I was very heartbroken to let the show go, but
of course,
Beautiful Anonymous really made me feel okay about it.
And you're what, like 130 episodes in?
Like that. Yeah.
That's so cool. I was describing the few different episodes to my wife. One of them was, I know from what I've read, is definitely one of the more popular ones. It was the woman that was about to be going to federal prison in like 3 days.
4 days.
4 days. I was
turning her into.
I was describing that to my wife, and I was like, "Listen to this," and she's standing there like listening to my every word. I go, "This is an example of his show." I said, "You would love this stuff." Yeah.
So we had a lady who was 4 days away from a 4-year federal prison stint telling us about what she was doing to get ready. Then we'll have episodes. We had another one from like a guy who works at the post office who was telling us about that, but he was also a dude he was a gay guy who did a bunch of coke and got in a fist fight with his partner and got arrested.
Chris, on the drive over here, I was listening to that, and I just got to the part where he said cocaine, and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah. So it's just very different tonally, and we've had someone who escaped from a religious cult, and another one that was just a guy talking about different times he pooped his pants. It's like whatever people call in and they want to talk about, I'm ready to talk about it, and I kind of like that. It's a little bit of like an archive of like, here's who people were and what they were dealing with in real time in the eras that they happened. Now,
I imagine a lot of people are curious about updates from these people, right?
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I actually just signed a contract to do a companion series that's going to be follow-ups. Yeah. So
no way.
I think we're going to do 10 of them to start, and it's so like 10 of the people that I think the listeners are most like, what happened with them. And I think it'll be out end of this year, beginning next year.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Let me look at the... All right, I know you have someplace to be, so let's talk quickly about the fact that you have a book coming out soon.
Yes.
Last night, one of the first things you did on stage is tossed one into the audience.
Yes.
Which I don't think I've seen before.
Publishing companies letting me give away press copies to try to help sell some pre-orders.
Sure.
Yeah, it's called Lose Well.
Second book?
Third book.
Or third book, that's right, third book.
Yeah. And I'm excited to see how it goes. The company that bought it, they came to me, which is a nice change of pace in my career. I didn't pitch around. And they are a self-help company. And I was not totally comfortable with that. So I wound up writing a book that's like a combination of a lot of funny stories. And then also just sort of like, hey, I've been chasing a dream for 18 years. There's a lot of stuff I've learned through trial and error. This is it. Not melodramatic, not hippy-dippy, Zen, tap into the cosmos type of advice, but just more like, hey, so I ran into this wall about 100 times, and then I eventually realized this. So I'm just going to tell you this thing I learned, and then maybe you don't have to run into the wall so many times. And I'm just excited to see how people like it. I don't know if they will, but I'm going to put it out there in the world and try.
So it'll be out in October?
October
Correct?
16th. Yeah.
October 16th.
Available for pre-order now.
And then will there be a book tour?
Yeah, there'll be a little bit of something like that. I think maybe like 10 cities.
Okay.
Doing like my club tour now, which I think will be about 10 cities, and then the book tour towards the end of the year will be like small theaters, and that'll be like another 10. And then I'll take some time off the road. Because I'm tired.
That's one of the things I wrote down I wanted to ask you is when are you going to take some time for yourself?
Ooh, I gotta.
I know on stage you talk about how workaholic your father.
Yeah.
And
I inherited
and then
that.
you inherited that. And
Yeah.
So what's the status of that now?
I took a pretty big vacation in January. That was nice. I went to Sri Lanka for 3 weeks.
Wow.
So that recharged the batteries.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm doing 2 more club weekends the next 2 weekends. And then I'm coming off the road a little bit. I'm doing a festival in London and a festival in Toronto in September, and then taking a bunch of September off and the first half of October off just to recharge the tank before I go back out after the book's out.
Sure. Lori Kilmartin was here a couple of weeks ago.
It was great.
Yeah, and she's written a few books.
Yeah.
And we started talking about the book signings and, where she'll do a little reading. And when we got to the part where she talked about the people that come up and say, I think your book is a great idea, and they show up for the reading and then don't buy one.
Right.
Yeah. She was like, I want to strangle those people.
Yeah, it is a little tough. I will say I'm so lucky, but fans of mine tend to be sort of introverted, a little nervous at times, and I'm proud that I've made some stuff and flattered that I've made some stuff that makes people want to like open up to me a little bit. There are times where it's like there's a line of 30 people and I'm selling merch. Someone comes up and we have a very heartfelt, tender conversation, and that always means the world to me. And then they walk away and don't buy anything, and I'm like, oh my God, 30 people just had to wait for us to have a heart-to-heart.
Yeah.
Please, heart-to-heart's welcome, but go to the end of the line.
Yeah.
Please let the other people buy their stuff and go home to let the babysitter off the hook.
Uh-huh.
Let that happen first, please.
Yeah, I've kind of got a routine here at the club now where I usually hit the road really fast when the show is done.
Yeah.
Especially because I'm I'm so thankful that I'm in the position where I get to come and then, spend some time with whoever.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to just take somebody else's time after the show out there. And I walked by, I was one of the first ones out of the club last night. I walked by, Brandon, one of the managers here, was standing there with some albums, looks like you're selling, and some books and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nope, I'm going to leave this for everybody else. I'm going to leave it. Because I know how Chris is, like, his fans are really connected to him, and I don't want to get in the way.
It's beautiful. If you're listening to this, I'm not mad. Some people are going to hear this, going to feel bad and feel like I'm mad that they didn't. No, just wait till the end of the line.
Right.
I'll talk to you all night long.
Right.
Let me make my cash first.
I think if people just even know a little bit about you, know that that's genuine, what you just said.
It's not bitterness. It's not anger. It's just it's not even like I necessarily care. It's more like I said, like some of these people have babysitters, or some of these people have to get up for work in the morning. So
oh yeah, that's a big thing.
They want to go. They want to move quick. Let's just be nice.
Yep.
Let it happen.
For sure. Did I say this at the beginning? You know, the other thing that you mentioned when you were here for episode 88, in addition to the half hour that was about to be recorded, Chris Gethard show pilot for Comedy Central, is also you were engaged at the time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Now my wife is here in town with me.
Look at that, huh?
That's so funny to think. Yeah, I think that was. I think it was February 2012. I was here.
Yeah.
Or no,
March.
14.
It was March, I believe. I wrote it down.
No, wait. I would have been
3/5, March 5th. We
February,
recorded.
March 14, and I got married August 30th, 2014. Yeah.
See?
Engaged, and I tell you, I really like being married.
Yeah.
That's how that one turned out. With the update.
I got married for the second time in between these times
you
too.
liked it so much you did it twice. That's awesome.
Yep.
That's
Two
awesome.
two and done.
Nice. Yes.
Two and done. Not doing it again. We're sticking with this one. I want to let you get to where you need to go. I want to ask you just one more fun thing. I don't remember how long ago this was, but I saw a video of you talking about all these delicious sodas that you like.
I love sodas.
Yes, me too.
Yeah.
Give me just a couple that I should look for.
Well,
I like fruit, like a good strawberry soda. I really like.
Well, I'll tell you, I think there's one that's actually Minneapolis based, if I remember right. There's a company called Joya, Joia, I believe. And they are I think they're the only company I've ever seen that has an apricot soda.
Oh.
It's very good.
Very good.
So that's I believe they are brewed in this area.
How about a good root beer? You like root beer?
Virgil's Bavarian Nutmeg Special Edition is really good, but you have to get it very, very cold. I also like Dang Butterscotch root beer. It's root beer with a butterscotch flavoring in it.
Oh.
That's very good as well.
That's a little different than the vanilla.
Yeah, it's really good.
Butterscotch.
It's really good, and it's great. That's great to make a root beer float out of, because it's like you get an ice cream sundae, but you don't even have to pour the butterscotch on. It's in there.
Yeah.
It's good, yeah. Those are the root beers I like.
All right.
I'm trying to think. I'm sure there's more, but those are the two that jump out.
And finally, I bet you don't know that you still follow me on Twitter. From the last time you were in town, you were probably being a really nice guy and followed me back when we posted about the show. But I guarantee you don't know you follow me on Twitter.
There are tons of people I follow on Twitter, and I enjoy reading my whole timeline, but where I'm like, I wonder where I met this person.
Yeah. You have no idea.
I don't know that your tweets jump out and I go, oh, that's the guy I once did the podcast with. No.
Oh. Well, that's fine.
So sorry.
That's
you
fine.
Nailed me to the wall on that one. Gotcha journalism at its finest.
That's right. And we'll leave with that. Yeah. No hard feelings.
Awesome. Thank
Chris,
you so much.
Thank you. Continued success.